we'll be talking about the motions of Earth. This is going to represent the sun. Bear with me, I'm trying to engage you. So rotation is the turning or spinning of the Earth on its axis. The Earth moves completely around its axis in what we call a day. Days on every planet are very different because of how big the planets are. Rotation is what gives us day and night. And it looks something like this. Hi, night, day, night, day again. Maybe that'd be a little bit better if I used my sun. Hold please. Day, night, day, night. Got it? The next motion of Earth is revolution. And that's the motion of some sort of body moving around the sun, however long it takes them to get back to that starting point. Kind of like running around a track. Planets move along a path around this point in space. That's how we get a year for Earth. It's not quite 365 days, hence leap year. It's 364 and a quarter. Every 4 years you get a leap year. But it looks like this. I'm revolving, revolving. I feel like Buddy the Elf in that store. Let's put rotation, revolution together with the sun. Cue the movement. Rotation. Cheers there. Revolving. Woo! There goes my sun. I'm dizzy. Okay, maybe my deck's not big enough, so let me try that again. Rotation as I'm revolving. Still doesn't make me any less dizzy. Try that one at home. The next motion of Earth is precession. Now, even though we are moving around the axis is also moving. However, it's moving very slowly. And every 26,000 years, our axis will actually point to a different North Star. And it'll trace out a cone of where it's been. Ever spun a top before and you see it spin around and around and around? Oh, have you ever seen Inception when the coin spins? You don't know if it's real or not? But the gravitational pull of the moon causes the axis to spin like a top. And Earth makes one full turn every 26,000 years. The North Star will not always be where the North Pole points. But that's for a different lifetime. We'll also talk about nutation. Now, nutation is when that axis starts to kind of wobble. Kind of like at the end of a top's life. As it's spinning around, it starts to kind of get that wobble going to it. It changes the angle about half a degree every 18 years. And this also happens because of the gravitational pull of the moon. And finally, we have Barycenter. The Barycenter is a center that two objects orbit around. When a moon orbits a planet, both bodies actually orbit together around some point. The point is not always in the middle like you would expect from, say, a seesaw. The point's always going to be closer to the larger body. And our sun does not remain motionless in our sky. It moves too. And this happens because of the pull of our planets and the gravity that exerts itself onto the moon. So the sun also orbits a Barycenter in space. Now, this is the sun. We'll pretend this Easter egg is the Earth. Hey, I'm doing the best I can here. I think I'm holding them about the same distance apart, but I would not be the Barycenter. The Barycenter would be closer to the sun since it's the larger object. So the Barycenter would actually be located kind of like right here, away from the middle. Now the moon orbits or revolves around the Earth every 28 days. So usually we see one full moon a month. A blue moon is when you get 2 full moons in a calendar month. Once in a blue moon, it doesn't happen very often. If you're going to see it, you have to catch a full moon at the beginning of the month and the end of the month. They also blame full moons for all the craziness that happens, especially at school. You know those days. The ellipse path is actually about 235,000 miles away from Earth. But when we have supermoons, that seems a whole lot closer, doesn't it? Apogee is when the moon is farthest away from the Earth, and perigee is when the moon is closest to the Earth. These affect our tides. Sometimes we get higher high tides and lower low tides because of the gravitational pull of the moon. Crazy fact of the day, we only ever see one side of the moon. Why is that? It's because the moon rotates and revolves at the same speed, about 27 1/3 days. So only one side of the moon is ever lit by the sun. Now, as you know or have observed before, the moon has phases, and the phases last about every 3 days. There are 8 phases of the moon. The phases are various shapes of the moon that are lit by the reflected sunlight. It takes about a month to go through a complete cycle to see all the phases. That means from going from one full moon to the next. Have you ever looked up in the sky and you can't find the moon? That's called a new moon. There's no lighted area that's visible from Earth. Now, full moons, the entire area we can see from Earth, is lit up by the sun. A crescent means that less than half is lit. Like crescent rolls, right? And gibbous means that more than half is lit. When we use the term waxing, it means that the moon is becoming more and more visible. It's increasing in size. Waxing means that it's going from a new moon to a full moon. After we hit the full moon, we hit the waning phase. And that means that the area that we're going to see is actually decreasing. The moon's going to get smaller. Now, Earth has phases when it's viewed from the moon. We can have an eclipse when one body passes through the shadow of another. We can also have a solar eclipse, and that's when the moon gets right in the path of the Earth and the sun. Therefore, the moon is casting its shadow down to Earth and gives us some darkness. This takes place in the new moon phase. Remember how the United States experienced a full solar eclipse that took place back in 2018? We got to observe it from the roof at South Corner High School. That was pretty cool! There were only certain places in North Carolina where you could experience totality. Other people went places so they could view the totality, meaning it got completely dark. But they saw this awesome bright ring right around it. That would have been cool to experience, especially because it traveled across the entire United States. Now, the lunar eclipse is when the Earth is in between the moon and the sun. This takes place in the full moon phase. Then the moon passes into Earth's shadow. Even though full moons happen every month, eclipses don't. And that's because of the tilt and axis of Earth. They don't always line up just right. I hope you enjoyed today's lesson. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know. Until then, see you guys next week. I'm out.